Hello and good afternoon to all the buddies. Okay, just give me a thumbs up in the chat section that am I clearly audible and visible to you guys so that I am good to go for the class. Okay. Okay, so I guess we are good to go as I got the thumbs up from my backend team. Okay, so let's start the class. Okay, we have already started the series for 9th standard, as I have told you before, in the 9th standard, and we are starting free series, free live classes for 9th and 11th standard because students are struggling more into these classes. So we thought, why not be with you and help you out to overcome this thing that we are new into the process, we want to grasp, we want to adjust and everything. So we are here, the whole Buddy Education team with your Buddy team. We are here to support you students every time. Okay, so if I talk about today's class, the chapter which we will take is the living world. Okay, first let me give you some basic introduction about what we will study, how we'll study, everything. Then we'll quickly jump to the chapter, okay, without wasting your important and precious time. Okay. Till now in the 9th and 10th standard you have studied biology, because in the 9th standard you got into the concept of biology, physics and chemistry. That was science before. Then you got to the concept of biology, physics and chemistry. But when you enter in the class 11, you get more diversification. Yes, you get more diversification into botany and zoology. Yes, I am talking about that biology is now split into two pathways. One is botany and the other is zoology. So botany is dealing all with the plants and zoology is dealing with all animals. Okay. So this is to give you a small introduction. I know you all are aware, but it's my important duty, or it's my moral duty, to just tell you a little bit introduction about this. So now here our biology is diversified into two branches. That one is botany and other is zoology. Okay, so botany is dealing with all plants and zoology is dealing with all animals, including us also, because we are also included in animals now. So botany, plants, zoology, animals. Okay, there are more diversification, there are more branches which we will study in 11th and as well as in 12th, but that we'll discuss later. Right now just understand that we have two branches which we'll be studying. And if I talk about your competitive exams, you must have heard about that there is separate section for plants and separate section for animals, which is zoology part is different and botany part is different. You have heard about it. So that's how we're gonna cater. So if I talk about this particular unit which we gonna study, that is the diversity in living world. Diversity in the living world. Okay. In the living world. Okay. Students, if I talk about this chapter is neither the part of zoology, neither the part of botany. Okay. How? Because if I talk about living world does not consist of just plants or does not consist of just animals. Living world comprises of everything. Either it be like a group of microorganisms, either it be a group of like multicellular organism, can be anything. Either it can be plant, it can be animal, either it can be fungi also. So anything which is living, is considered in this whole unit. So this unit, the first unit saying diversity in living world. So we will be discussing about the diverse form of living organisms present in this world. Yes, diversity. So if I talk about the word diversity, let me talk about this word diversity first. So students, diversity is basically something like I have varieties. Okay, how you go to a shop to purchase something, how you go to specifically the food thing. Okay, let's talk about food because that is my favorite part. So if I talk about food, when you go to get something like let's go to a pizza shop. Okay, so I have went to the pizza shop and I want a diversification in my pizza. Like I want recently they have launched now, like there'll be 6 different flavors, there'll be 2 different flavors, there'll be 3 different flavors in just one like one whole pizza. So that's how diversifications are. Like we have different we have different cuisine, we have different menu, like we have different thing, everything on the one platter. Now I have to choose what I want to eat, what I won't eat, things which I like, things which I don't like. So that everything is included in diversity. Number of varieties for one particular thing is known as diversity. So if I talk about diversity in living world, this whole world is more diverse. Like if this diversity came into the picture when this introduction of taxonomy, systematics, that was included. We'll learn about these terms. Okay, don't get into the terms, we'll learn about these terms later on in our chapter. We'll be dealing it. Okay, so if I talk about this diversity in the living world, this was more into the concept when this came ki there are a lot number of organisms are there. Now we have to classify them, we have to name them, because I cannot call this person with the same name everywhere. So I want a particular name now, that this person will be like I will be identifying this person as this exact person everywhere I go. Like I have my name as Afiyat. So everyone is calling me Afiyat, not just here at my workplace, at my home, at my friend's place, or anywhere I go. So everyone will be calling me with that particular name. So if I talk about that particular name, that also dealing with this, that also will be dealing in this chapter, that how that naming thing came, how we are classifying, how we are identifying, everything is included in the chapter, upcoming chapter, which we gonna deal. Okay, so if I talk about this whole unit consists of 4 chapters, which is the living world, then biological classification, then comes the plant kingdom, then comes the animal kingdom. So this whole unit does not have any specificity that it is included in plants or it is included in animals. Everything is included in one whole unit. So I was talking about these branches of biology. So let's get diversity there only. How biology is something one, and then diversified, or then everything, like all the branches are going around from that one whole branch. That biology is all about the study of living organisms. That is the first line of our 11th NCERT, that biology is the study of living organisms. Yes, so this whole thing is biology. Now I have to diversify. Now it's like biology consists of plants also, that is botany, and biology consists of animals also, that is zoology. So here also diversity is there. So there is nothing in this world where diversity doesn't come, because we need varieties now. We need a variety in everything. That just give me variety, I'll be okay with the varieties. So that's how we are. And that's how we have seen varieties. So systematics has given us the direction that how these varieties are there, how this we learn the present diversity in both the levels. Okay, horizontal, vertical levels. Okay, don't get confused in this. I'll teach you the horizontal and vertical levels of diversification. Don't get into it. Okay, but we have learned ki how many similar things. If I just give you a brief idea about horizontal and vertical, so that you don't get confused. Okay, like I am standing at the human pace thing. So I have differences among my species only. There are different like there are different people. Like if I talk about, just take my face only. So if I talk about my face, there are not exact copies of me. There will be diversities in my own species also. Like humans have varieties. Like they have different nose, different eyes, different ears. Everyone has diversities. So there comes the diversity that my own species also has a diversity. Everyone is diverse from one another. Okay. Then comes, if I talk about other organisms, like let me talk about one single organism. Let's talk about amoeba only. So amoeba is never the same. Amoeba is having the most irregular shape in the world. We all have studied about that. That amoeba is something which doesn't have any specific shape. It is not regular in shape. It is very irregular in shape. So that's where the amoeba, it is a single cell organism. Then if I talk about Chlamydomonas, that is a single cell organism, but it has a particular shape. It has a definite shape, that this shape gonna be like this. If I talk about ovum also, that is also single cell now, so that will also have definite shape. Everything has definite shape. But then comes, if I talk about multicellular organisms, there also varieties comes. Like if I talk about, let's talk about dogs, let's talk about cats, fishes, then birds. Everywhere we can see the diversities. That there are diversification. Organisms are evolving when I am moving forward from unicellular to multicellular. Okay, that hierarchical management will study in this chapter also. Okay. So organisms are showing diversity on their own, in their own species level also, and in their different species are lower than them and higher than them. So they are showing diversity with respect to each and everything. Okay. So moving forward with this chapter initially, or if I talk about this unit initially talks about, there's one scientist specifically mentioned, that is Ernst Mayr. He was a well-known scientist. He was known as, okay, let me write it down for you. Okay, so this unit, initially starting for this unit, they have given the introduction of one scientist, that is Ernst Mayr. So he was a well-known scientist. Why I am saying well-known? When you make a list of 100 scientists, his name will always be there. He is one of the 100 scientists in the world. His name will always be there. So that's why he's greatest of all time. Okay, good. In your language. So Ernst Mayr is mentioned in our initially starting of our book. So he is basically one of the 100 greatest scientists. And if I talk about the word 100, then yes, he has completed 100 years of his life. Like he was born in 1904 and then he died in 2004. So it's like he has completed 100 years of age. So it's like one whole century. So remember this letter 100. He is one of 100, he's amongst the 100 greatest scientists of all time. Then he has completed one whole century from 1904 to 2004. Let me write down the year. Okay, 1904 to 2004. So he has completed one whole century. Okay, why I am mentioning his name is because he was also known as Darwin of 20th century. He was also named as Darwin of 20th century. Okay. Then he also got the 3 awards and he gave the biological concept of species and everything. That's why his name is mentioned there. Okay. Now let's move forward with the chapter. Okay, this whole introduction was initially given when we were starting the unit. Now let's get into the chapter, what the chapter says. So in this chapter, what we gonna study about the living world. Okay, this world is a beautiful place created by the Almighty. Okay, I'm not naming anything, so I'm saying that God created everything so beautifully, but being humans, we want to get into everything. So that's how we entered into the process. So God has created this whole beautiful world into varieties, like he has given us the variety of species, the beauty that, what if we might get bored with something, then we will have something else to see. So God has created this whole world beautifully and diversifically. Why I am saying this diversifically? Because diversities have its own beauty. Like I can see a single cell organism doing the same function which I am doing. So it's like, how? Okay, that gives me a blow right now, that how? Single cell organism is also performing the same function which I am performing. So the same thing, that this is the beauty that God has created, that everything is created accordingly. That will be there. Okay, I should not be talking about God more now because we are talking about science. No, it's not like that. Everything is created so beautifully. Of course, he is there. I believe that. Okay. So he has created so beautifully that everything has its own beauty. I'm not saying that we evolved exactly like humans. Okay, no. I am not into the concept of that. I am into the concept that we evolved from a single cell organism. Now I am into a multicellular form. That is something which we're gonna learn in 12th standard in the evolution chapter. Okay. So if I talk about this whole diversity thing, when I'm talking about it, so okay, let me consider there is one small room. So can you expect more diversity in this small room, or you can expect the more diversity in a one whole garden or one whole city? Then if I talk about state, if I talk about country, so if I talk about one small, let's talk about a home. Okay, I have one home, then I have, this home is in one city. Then moving from city is in one state. Then this state is in one country. And of course, this country is in the world. So when I'm shift from small area to a larger area, the diversification increases. Like if I talk about home, there will be some species, like if I talk about my home, I have like humans, I have animals, I have plants, well planted garden and everything. So it's like I have few species, even the microorganisms, mosquitoes are there obviously. So we have all kinds of species at my home. But if I move from home to a city has more diversification. I won't be having all the animals at my home, but city will be having the different kinds of animals. So then if I move to a state is having its specific animals, like we have studied different states having different animals. So that's where the state comes. Then state, country. So country will be having more diversity than a home. So as we move from a small area, as I move from small area to a larger area, what is increasing? The diversification. The diversification is increasing. So with respect to area, diversification is also increasing. With if I talk about small area, less diversity. If I talk about large area, there is more diversity. So there comes the context that I am talking about with what respect to diversity. I am talking about this diversification in living organisms. I am talking about this diversification in living organisms. Okay, now let's talk about this diversification in living organisms. So there is one specific word given in our textbooks, that is biodiversity. Yes. So I was taking you all there only. So if I talk about this diversification in living organisms, there is one particular definition about it, and that word and that definition says biodiversity. Biodiversity. Now, what is this biodiversity? So, biodiversity comes from two words, that is bio and diversity. Biodiversity comes from two words, that is bio and diversity. Bio, obviously, we are talking about living organisms. We are talking about living organisms, and diversity, I am talking about directly variety. Okay, so biodiversity is basically something which is dealing with the variety in living organisms at a particular area. So if I talk about home, it is less diverse than a country, than whole world, than whole universe. So a home is less diverse than whole country, less diverse than city, state or any other place, because home is a very small area. So with respect to area, diversification increases or biodiversity increases. So biodiversity is basically something which is dealing with a variety at a particular place. Variety means everything, okay? Microorganisms, plants, animals, humans, everything, every living organism I am including in it. From multicellular to unicellular, okay? I have made, I guess, wrong. From unicellular to multicellular. Okay, so biodiversity is basically the variety of all organisms, of living organism kar lete hain, of all living organisms at a place. Okay. So biodiversity is basically all the varieties which are included at a particular place. Okay. If I talk about biodiversity, there is different context to it, like how many organisms are known species, known everything that is already there in the book. Okay. So let me talk about that. So if I talk about the present scenario, at present we have total number of known species, that is 1.7 million to 1.8 million known species. Okay, talking about the biodiversity only, so we have total known species. Total known species is 1.7 to 1.8 million. And out of this 1.7, there is two things. I'm talking about plants and animals. So let me talk about plants first and then animals. So out of this 1.7 to 1.8 is 0.5 million is plant species and 1.2 million is animal species. And in animals, most of the group is included as arthropods, or like most of the species out of this is most insect. Okay. Because we are seeing every now and then different kinds of insects and everything. So that's why insects are more. Okay. Getting more into it, students. When I'm talking about the living species, let me know what made this living species as living. What is the criteria of judging me that this species is living and this species is not living? So what will be the criteria? So basically there are two kinds of features. One is characteristic features and the other is defining features. One is characteristic feature when I want to know that this species is living or this species is not living. So I have two kinds of features. Okay. Just to decide that a species okay. Just to decide the species is living, we have two kinds of features. What two kinds of features are? One is characteristic feature and the other is defining feature. Okay. Now, giving you introduction about what is the difference between characteristic and what is the difference between defining feature. Characteristic feature is something that which is present. Okay, that will be there, but it is not mandatory to be there. But if I talk about defining feature, there should be 100% chance. Defining feature, if I talk about, there should be 100% chance of being there. Presence. So the presence should be 100%. Defining features means it should be present 100%. If I say this feature is not present, then it is present in okay, let me talk about, I have 100 species, then this 100 species, one species does not have this feature and other 99 have this feature. No. There comes that thing. Okay, all the 100 species should be having this feature. Defining feature is that there should be 100% possibilities of having that feature. Characteristic feature might be present, might not be present, and there will be possibilities of like what kind of percentage that feature is present. Like if I say, okay, we'll discuss about the feature only, then I'll explain you better. Okay, so we have two kinds of feature. One is characteristic feature and the other is defining feature. Okay. Let me take you first to the characteristic feature. If I talk about characteristic feature, we have 6 characteristic features. If I talk about characteristic feature, we have 6 characteristic features. First is growth. Second is reproduction. Third is growth, reproduction. Then we have okay, I'm skipping something here, I guess. Okay, I'll go with line by line only. Growth, reproduction. Then we have metabolism. Then we have cell organization. Okay, this should be the point number 4. So this is cell organization. I guess most of the words you are already familiar with, but little words I have to explain in a better way. So 4th is cell organization. Then we have consciousness. Then we have consciousness. And we have metabolism, growth, and respond to environment, sense to environment. Okay, so all these things are characteristic feature that these should be there, but this is not mandatory that everything should be there. But now what are the defining features? Let me sort those things for you. So if I talk about in this only, let me make one column of defining feature. Okay, so out of this, growth is a characteristic feature, but it's not a defining feature. Growth is not a defining feature. Then if I talk about reproduction, reproduction can be there and cannot be there because we have sterile couples still existing. So we have sterile couples, okay. So this reproduction is again not a defining feature. Then if I talk about metabolism, you can never see in non-living things and non-living structures. Metabolism is exclusive feature of only living organism. Every living organism will be performing metabolism, chemical activities going inside in our body. Okay, those chemical locha going inside our brain and body. Okay, I have put a cross on metabolism. Okay, let me okay, so this metabolism is a defining feature. Okay, Then we have cell organization. Yes, cell organization can never be present in non-living organisms or non-living things, because cell organization is only happens when an organism is living, because cell is forming tissue, then tissue organs, and organ system, organism. So this thing cannot be there. This cell organization is also a defining feature. It will be exclusively present in only living organism. Then we have consciousness. Yes, consciousness is also a defining feature. Non-living things cannot be conscious. How do they know what they have to do next? They are simply the machines. What I am asking that machine to act, that machine will act. Okay, so this again feature. And then we have sense to environment. Okay, I guess this consciousness will come in sense to environment. Let me write it down as okay, I'll just put this into self-consciousness. That will be more better. Self-consciousness. Okay. So if I talk about this feature is also only a characteristic feature. This is also not defining feature. So what we have is, we have 6 characteristic feature and we have 3 defining feature. That should be there like 100%. If they are present, that means I am so sure that this organism or this particular thing is forming a living organism. Okay, let me discuss one by one all these features, so we'll get more of it. Ki, what is this feature and how they are behaving, like exactly. Let me know ki, what is this feature. I need to know about this feature. So first let's talk about our first feature, that is growth. Our first feature, that is growth. Okay, if I talk about growth, we all know what is growth. Growth can be increase in mass and increase in height. Okay, so basically the growth is a twin feature. Growth is basically a twin feature, that is increase in mass and increase in height. Okay, so like lengthwise also and bulky also. So that is something twin feature of growth. So if I talk about growth, growth can be seen in living organisms as well as in non-living things. Like growth is there in living organisms, like internal growth, external growth, we can see both. Okay, like if I talk about plants, plants are like growing endlessly. Plants are growing endlessly because they have stem cells in them. So growth can be seen in living. First, let's talk about the living organism thing. Okay, so growth is there in living organism, and in living I'm talking about plants first. So if I talk about plants, plants have unlimited growth. Plants have unlimited growth. In that unlimited growth, I don't mean that plant keep on going and then they reach to infinity. No, it's not like that. Keep on growing means they'll be growing in terms of like leaves, or like if I say 10 leaves already shedded from that leaf, then again new leaves will be coming. So that is also a growth. That growing means it doesn't mean only the growing in height. It is also growing in mass. It's also growing in number of leaves, number of fruits every year, and then decrease also. So growth is something which can be positive and which can also be negative. Okay, so if I talk about growth here, growth can also be positive and it can also be negative. So if I talk about plant students, so in plants we can see the growth in both the senses, that in the positive sense and in the negative. Because if I say that this season is over, then the plants start getting deteriorating. That this plant will be like, last year we had like, okay, I have a mango tree. Last year there was 150 mangoes and this year only 100 mangoes. So what is that? That is a decrease in growth. So that's how it also helps. Plants are also into negative and positive. Same like humans and animals, we are also into positive and negative growth. Because at a certain age we'll be growing, and then after our adulthood, after when we grow old, we're like, my feet are not working, my bones are not working, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. You have seen even the wrinkles. So it's like that is part of negative growth. So growth can be positive and can be negative. If I talk about plants, plants also have like unlimited growth throughout their life, but that can be positive and negative both, but they have growth throughout their life. Okay, like unlimited. Okay, it can be seen. It can be seen. It is a visible growth in plants. Okay, it is visible. Okay, now I am talking about animals. So if I talk about animals in this ratio, animals are like, they grow up to a certain age and then they start deteriorating. So if I talk about animals, they grow up to certain age, then they fall apart. Okay, So if I talk about animals now, like till the age, like they have reached till adulthood. Now here is their adulthood. So now here they'll enjoy like little healthy life, and then after the old age, they'll start getting deteriorating. Ki haan, now they are dead. Okay, so it's like from the starting initially, from like the time I am born, I'll be growing up to my adulthood, and then I'll have like a stable lifestyle from my 25 to 35 years of age. Not stable also, but still it will be there ki haan, I am fine at this point of time, and then my growth will be suddenly starting like I'm having knee pain, I'm having joints pain, I'm having this pain, that pain, everything will be there. That means my growth is falling apart. So there comes both kinds of growth. Okay, so this is positive as well as negative. Now talking about non-living things. Now talking about non-living. Talking about non-living also has growth. Like you have seen mountains, like mountains growing big, mountains going small. Then you have seen the railway tracks. You have seen the expansion and contraction, relaxation, everything now in like with respect to season, that how railway tracks are expanding, how railway tracks are not expanding. Then you must have seen ki all the non-living things, like even if I talk about road, ki last year this road was constructed to this height. Now if I talk about this year, this road has been decreased to this height, because that the construction material, that everything now that goes on compressing, that's why it has like lower growth. Even same goes for mountains. Like mountains will grow on, like keep on growing, and they'll shed off also. So when they shed off because of rain and everything, they decrease in height and the mass as well. So if I talk about non-living, they keep on growing with respect to mass and height as well, depending upon the environmental condition. So if there is any external force or external support or any external thing going on with them, they will change. So non-living thing grow, but because of environment, because of the environment they are in. Okay, am I writing some wrong spelling? Yes, I guess. Because of environment. Like for example, if I give example here, it's like mountain. Then with mountain, then we have railway tracks. Then we have roads, okay, etc. Let's keep etc. there. Okay, so that is something growth is for both living as well as non-living. It is a characteristic feature, it is not a defining feature. Okay, now moving forward to the second one, we have written, I guess, reproduction. So if I talk about reproduction, okay, so basically reproduction is something which is producing its own copies, like humans producing humans, cats producing cats, dogs producing dogs. So reproduction is basically a process of producing its own self, or I would say production of similar species. So reproduction is something, the production of similar species, like humans are producing humans, cats producing cats, as I've already said. So reproduction can be of two types. We have already discussed this in class 10th, even class 8th. People are discussing about this because we have a chapter. So reproduction can be of two types. It can be of asexual and it can be of sexual. Asexual, where one parent is involved; sexual, where two parents are involved. Okay, where gametes formation is involved. Here, where gametes formation is not involved, everything is included. So if I talk about reproduction, reproduction is seen in all the living organisms. It cannot be seen in non-living organisms. It is a characteristic feature of a living organism. But if I say that reproduction cannot be seen in non-living things, then why it is not a defining feature? It is not a defining feature because there comes an exception. There comes an exception, like you have seen example of mule, then sterile couples, then there's sterile pets also. there will be couple who will be keep on getting the chances to reproduce and everything, but then still they don't reproduce, they don't still have the babies. That's why we have, like, if I talk about the modernization, we have the concept of IVF, in vitro fertilization, where we are going to the doctor and then getting the test tube babies done. That we will study in the later classes. So that thing is also there, that these couples are keep on doing and they are sterile, that they cannot reproduce, they are sterile, they cannot reproduce. So there comes exception. And if I talk about this mule species also, we have studied that the crossbreed between horses and the donkeys produces mules, and they are also sterile. So it's like every organisms cannot reproduce. This thing is there, reproduction is there. It is a characteristic feature that if any organism is living, they will reproduce. But it's not like every single individual is reproducing. No, it's not there. So that's why this reproduction is not a defining feature, because there comes the exception. What exception is there? Sterile couple. Then we have mule. Mule is basically a crossbreed between horse and donkey. Okay, so any crossbreed also cannot reproduce, because reproduction can be done only between similar species. Okay, here, production of similar species by similar species. I cannot say that, see here we are crossbreeding. Crossbreeding means horse and donkey. So that's why we have produced one species, that is what we wanted, that the speed of horse and the working capacity of donkey. That we wanted, we have produced mule for that. But the thing is, mules are not reproductive, they cannot reproduce, they are sterile. If I want to produce more mules, I have to crossbreed again horse and donkey. I cannot produce mules from mules, so they are sterile. So that's where we cannot say that this reproduction is the defining feature. Reproduction, if I talk about reproduction, okay, let me just give you a brief intro about this also. Asexual, one parent; sexual, two parents. And we have like other types in asexual also, that there comes fragmentation, regeneration, then comes budding, fission. All these things are included in asexual reproduction. Single cell organism is also reproducing, multicellular organism is also reproducing. So it's like every organism, every living organism is reproducing. Either it is single cell or either it is multicellular. Okay, moving forward. Okay, moving forward to the third point, which is might be I have skipped. What was the third point? Okay, metabolism, and then we have cell organization. Okay, so moving forward to the third point, which is metabolism. Okay, moving forward to the third point, which is metabolism. Basically, metabolism is a sum total of all the chemical activities going inside our body. All the chemical loads are going inside my body, like everything. Everything means like the food which I am eating, that is broken down to form energy. Then again for reconstruction of other energy and everything, like there is continuous process of breaking down and forming inside my body with the help of chemical bondings and all everything. So that every chemical, the sum total of all the chemical activities which is going inside my body is metabolism. Let me write it down for you. Sum total of all the chemical reactions or the activities also in the living organism is metabolism. So basically metabolism is sum total. It can be either breaking or it can be forming. So metabolism is basically of two types. Metabolism is of two types. One is catabolism and other is anabolism. Okay, let me explain you in this way. Suppose you have a Rubik's cube. Okay, let's make in 4 things only. Okay, you have a Rubik's cube which consists of like 4 cubes and they are all together formed like compact structure. Okay, so you have a Rubik's cube which is formed like this. Now I want to break it down. Okay, then I want to break it down. So I'll be breaking it into 4 small cubes. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, now I want to make it again. Then I'll go from here to here. So all these things, like I am breaking the bonds and I am making the bonds, both are included in metabolism. One is breaking and other is making. So if I talk about breaking the bond, that is, okay, I guess I am going to forward with this. Okay, let me just check. I guess I have missed something in between. Okay, let's quickly take a water break also so that we can get back to this. Okay. Hope you're hydrated, and we are already running out of the time, so we need to get quick on this. So I was talking about metabolism. So basically metabolism is the chemical process, or all the chemical process running into our body. Consists of two types, that is, one is anabolism and other is catabolism. Okay, so I was talking about the types of catabolism and anabolism, like what is what process. So basically one is a breaking down process and other is the constructive process. Like I have a big Rubik's cube, I want to break it down, that also releases energy, and I want to make it, that also releases energy. So energy is involved in all the process. So all these chemical activities, whatever is going in my body, when energy is involved in this process, that is metabolism. So if I break down this thing, then the process will be catabolism. So the breaking down process is catabolism, and when I am forming is anabolism. Okay, how to remember this? CB. Okay, catabolism, breaking down. Anabolism, constructive process. So catabolism is basically a breaking process or the breaking bond process, and this is basically a constructive process. So any chemical activity which is involving energy into it, that is where our metabolism come in the picture. Okay, so metabolism is exclusively a defining feature of all the living organisms. That if metabolism is there, that means that organism is living organism, because metabolism is something which cannot be seen in non-living things, because it is a chemical reaction. They are doing it individually by themselves only. They don't need anything ki I'll get some external force or something, then I'll perform the chemical activities. No, it's like my body is itself doing the process for me. So that is metabolism. So metabolism is one of the defining features. Like this feature should be there 100%, only then I'll be saying ki this organism is a living organism. Okay, moving forward to the fourth one. Fourth one is the cell organization. Fourth one is the cell organization. If I talk about cell organization, I'll quickly go with the cell organization, because we already know what is the cell organization. Okay, we have studied it more lot times. Okay, talking about cell organization, all the living organisms are formed from single cell, as we have studied since very small classes, that one single individual cells form a group. That group is known as tissues. That group of cell is known as tissue. Then all the tissues comes together to form an organ. Then all the organs come together to form an organ system. Then all the organ system come together to form an organism. An organism can be anything. It can be animal, it can be plant, it can be any unicellular also, like any single cell, let me say amoeba. Okay, that's where we go. Okay, anything can be there, unicellular, multicellular, any kind of organ. Okay, I have misplaced the amoeba here, because amoeba is a unicellular organism and it cannot be included here. Okay, moving forward, cell organization means any living organism will have at least one single cell. Like I was talking about amoeba, any living organism will have at least one cell. Even one cell is not there, that means the organism is not living, because living organisms are composed of one cell or multiple cell. Either it be one cell or it be multicellular. So the cell organization will be into either unicellular or it be multicellular. Okay, so unicellular organism we have already studied, like amoeba, paramecium, euglena, and all those other organisms. And if I talk about multicellular, plants, animals, and other organisms are included in multicellular organisms. So cell organization is one of the defining feature that it should be there. If any organism is consisting even a single cell, that means it's a living organism. So it is one of the defining feature. Okay, moving forward to the next feature is consciousness. Next feature is consciousness, that is fifth number. Consciousness. Consciousness is something like I am in my senses. I can sense everything. I can sense things around me. I can act accordingly. That is consciousness. Like acting accordingly. That is consciousness. Acting according to the situation, I am acting according to the environment, or like anything going around me, that is consciousness. So consciousness is something which is when I am acting accordingly. That is also self-consciousness, that we'll deal later, because only humans have the self-consciousness feature, that I'll deal. We are conscious, like I am in my senses, I know what to do, I know how to react. That is sense to environment. I am reacting to my environment, what's going on, what's not going on. So that is there, that I am conscious towards my environment. So consciousness is basically, it is a part of sense to environment. That's why I have removed this part from there. It is sense to environment, like everything going around me, I can act accordingly. So consciousness is something, a defining feature, because I know that I can react or I can do things accordingly, and this feature is only there in living organisms. Non-living things cannot have this, because machines, how can you expect a machine to react accordingly? Will the machine react, this environment is not good, let me not react to this. This environment is like that, let me not react to this. This environment is not good, let me not do my work. Will machine do that? No. Machine knows how to run, you simply turn it on and turn it off. That's it. That's how they react. Like if you want a machine to run, you just go and turn it on, and if you don't want the machine to run, then you'll go and turn it off. That's how they react. But if I talk about living organisms, they know. Like even if you turn them on, like even if someone is poking me for something, ki, you have to do this, I'll be like, I am a moody person. If I feel like doing it, I'll be doing it. If I don't feel like doing it, I won't be doing it. Same goes for all the living organisms. Like they are doing what they are meant to be. Like they are doing the respiration, they are doing the digestion, they are doing the excretion, they are performing all the life processes. So they are conscious about their body, they are conscious about themselves, that what they are doing, what they are not doing. So consciousness is a defining feature. Consciousness is a defining feature, that we know what we are doing and we know what our duties are. So we are doing our things, our duties. We are performing our duties, basically, our functions. Okay, I'll take the last here only because we have space. So if I talk about the last feature, that is self-consciousness. Self-consciousness. Self-consciousness is a feature which only humans have. Only in humans. Because we have emotions, we have feelings. So if someone is talking rude to me, if someone is loud to me, I'll be like, oh, that person is rude to me, I won't talk to that person anymore, I won't talk to that person in this way now, I will be doing this, I'll be doing that. I have my own brains. So it's like only humans have that self-conscious feature. Yes, living organisms have this, but only humans have this feature, that they are self-conscious towards themselves. Ki, now I am self-aware, ki, I'm not looking good this way, I'm looking more better this way, so let me do it this, let me not do that if I'm not doing good that thing. So that is where we have the self-conscious feature, that I am aware about myself, I am aware about my feelings, I'm aware about my emotions, I'm aware about my physical appearance, mental situation, everything. That is self-consciousness. And apart from humans, no other living organism have this. That's why this is not a defining feature. This is not a defining feature. It is just a characteristic feature because all the living organism does not have this. Okay. So if I conclude the lecture, what all we have studied is that this whole world is diversified into different organisms, and this is a beautiful world to live in, but we are spoiling it day by day because we have we want to create this, we want to create that, like we are more into machineries now. So this world is a beautiful place to live in. This is more diversified, where we have number of organisms, or the known species is 1.7 to 1.8 million, where we have more animals than plants. And even if I talk about animals, we have more insects. We have like a lot of small insects. Okay, so we have more insects than even animals. Then I have talked about biodiversity. Basically, biodiversity is the number of organisms at a particular place. Then we have studied about like how will I say that this organism is living or this organism is not living. So we have studied this 6 features. Okay, let me just rewind. We have studied 6 features, where we have studied characteristic feature which should be there, and we have studied defining feature which should be there, like 100% they should be there. Okay, so characteristic feature we have studied like growth, reproduction, metabolism, cell organization, consciousness and self-consciousness. Okay, then we have studied out of these 3 we have like characteristic defining feature, that is metabolism, cell organization, and consciousness. This should be there, like 100% they should be there. These are defining features of any living organisms. The rest of the class or the rest of the chapter will continue tomorrow at the same time with me, your biology mentor Afiyat ma'am. So I'll see you tomorrow. Till then, bye bye. Have a good day.